You already passed the big test, was getting those mics on. So now let's address some questions to both of you. Now I want to remind you guys, you have comment cards on your table, so you can write down your own questions. We have two ladies that will be picking up those comment cards. Wave your hands. There's Amber in the back, and I know Ashley's over there on the other side. So they'll be coming by tables. Oh, so we already got some folks raising their hands. Wow, they're ready to go. So Mayor Long, we're going to start with you. League City's government has a mayor, city council form of government. Can you explain your role as mayor and how that relates to John Baumgartner as the city manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's probably most analogous to the way a corporation would work. So I'm kind of like the chairman of the board. The city council would be the board, and then we hire the CEO. And so really, the city manager and just a couple select employees report to us. The rest of the employees and the rest of the organization feed up into John or the various departments.
So you go to a lot of events. I would say you kiss a lot of babies, maybe, and always are leading the tree lighting and other events as well.
I mean, you're kind of like a city mascot in some way. So
you're good at. Glad I don't put you in a costume. So that's good.
We do a lot of that. I drag my wife and our kids do a lot of those as well. So it is fun. I mean, this is my hometown, so it's you get to run into people you grew up with, people your kids play sports with and go to school with. But it's neat to kind of be able to do that and grow it.
So what are you most proud of that League City accomplished in 2024?
Yeah, so in 2024, we kind of continued the tradition that we've had. So I've been on council or been mayor for 10 years, and we passed another true tax cut. So you'll see a lot of times, a lot of government agencies all over the place, they reduce the tax rate. So it's easy to reduce the tax rate if the appraisals go up really high at the same time. So that doesn't really do anything. You're still bringing in more revenue. So we actually gave a true tax decrease. So brought in less money than we took the year before. So it's a true tax decrease for the 10th year in a row. And while doing that, we brought in other money from across the city, sales tax with increased fees and different things like this, that we're more properly allocating the service back to the people who are using it. And we were able to still invest $50 million in the capital improvement plan, still invest in public safety and in police, fire. So able to decrease the taxes while still delivering top line service.
John, I'll ask you that same question. What are you most proud of in 2024 as far as accomplishments?
So I think, as the mayor said, we're always proud to bring in a budget and reduce the tax rate and do a true tax cut. And just take a minute to recognize the few city employees that have helped us accomplish that. So we've got a group of directors over there. If you could stand just for a minute so we can recognize you. I appreciate your help in that. Great group of professionals, and they give their all every day to meet the goals and challenges set forth by the community and the council. But some of the things that we did last year, it's hard to pick just one or two things. Obviously, when we have a hurricane, that's always a tremendous effort and a big effort. The first responders as it relates to the storm event, and then the folks out in the field that have to pick everything up after that. It takes longer than we'd like it to take, but the next couple of months are brutal for them because they work 10 and 12-hour days and 7 days a week. And then the other big thing, we did take over the ballpark, and it's pretty amazing what we've accomplished in the year that we've been there. I think you'll find improved services and improved facility, and we continue to make investments there and run a recreation program that actually pays for itself. We're not quite yet, but that's the goal.
Mayor Long, what was the biggest challenge in 2024? And then secondly, what do you think is going to be in 2025?
Yeah, so I think the challenges can change from year to year, but one of the things I think I'm kind of proud of that we tackled, and we talked a little bit about it in that video, is the development committee. And so when we look at it, we have to kind of allocate cost in different ways. And so we went out there and said, all right, the citizens of League City shouldn't be paying for the cost of developing the city as well. So if you want to build new houses or build a new project in League City, fantastic, we want you here, but you're going to have to pay your own way. So you're going to change the fee structure to make you kind of support your own project. However, at the same time, we looked at it and looked at our processes and the way we were moving paperwork around and what we were making people do. And we realized we were kind of difficult to work with. So I think people, as the developers, should have to pay the fees and make sure the roads are in and do all that. but at the same time, not have to jump through a bunch of hoops and not really be clear on what processes need to happen. So we kind of went down the same road. We increased the fees and probably allocated all the costs back to the projects, but then we made it simpler to understand and quicker and easier because, you know, a developer looks at expense in a bunch of different ways. They look at not only from the actual money they're paying, but the delays and the ambiguity and all the other sides of it. So we tried to make it easier on one side, simpler to understand, and then probably allocate the expense back to them. And so those challenges will be, as we go forward, to constantly make sure that we're weighing the opportunities to develop the city and what's really going to come out of the taxpayers' pie.
John, kind of same question for you. What do you think our biggest challenge was in 2024, moving ahead for 2025?
Well, I think as we look at 2024 to mid-2025, it really revolves around the growth of the community. Every year we add another 1,000 homes, and that causes us to look at what are we doing for traffic, what are we doing for drainage, what are we doing for water and wastewater. Some of those challenges, it's not just like an easy, simple fix. It's years of effort. It's years of working with TxDOT to help improve the state highways. It's years of effort working with GCWA in the city to expand our water supply and our wastewater supply. So those challenges, come forward every year, and we have to face those and continue to meet the needs, goals, and objectives of the communities. Growth affects not only infrastructure but also our parks and recreation departments, our public safety departments, and continuing to adjust those and then stay under the new revenue rate and true tax cut at the same time. And so those challenges will always be there, and we're grateful for the opportunity to serve and meet those challenges. And so those are the biggest things that we face.
So John talked a little bit about Hurricane Beryl, which obviously had a pretty big impact in 2024 when it came to debris collection and pickup. How do you think it went?
Yeah, I think overall it went pretty well. I mean, I think there's always opportunity for improvement. We moved faster than most of the other communities in the greater Houston area and got it done. That's not to say everybody wouldn't have liked it done a couple weeks earlier. So I think through every disaster, we have to kind of do the recap at the end of it, figure out what went well, where we could improve, how we could do it better the next time. And I think there's a couple things we took out of it that we will be able to improve on in the future. However, the last storm is the last storm, so everything always changes in the next one. So we'll have to kind of debrief and make sure we're preparing for the next one and then taking what we learned from that one as well.
So kind of piggybacking off of that, we did go out and get feedback from our residents, surveyed focus groups, met with our own staff. What do you think we can improve upon?
Well, I think there's
and what can we keep as well? Because we did things some right.
There's a number of things that we learned. There's a number of things we did different than we had done in past storms. And so, a couple of things that I thought we did pretty well with is we had the individual drop. So let me back up. When we have the storm, ramping up as to what to do next as it relates to debris pickup is always the big deal. How soon can you start it? How do you keep all your debris removal eligible for federal reimbursement? If that doesn't matter, how does that work? And so a couple things we tried different this year. I thought improving the situation was we had the bag drop off at Hometown Heroes, and I thought that went pretty well. We had good partnership with Ameriwaste to pick up the bags after they were dropped off. I think what we heard from the residents from that perspective was that was great. They'd like an opportunity to drop off unbagged debris, and particularly as it relates to homes that are just hit with minor amount of debris. So again, the older subdivisions, the big trees, lots of debris, everybody understands it's piled by the curb and it takes a while to get to everybody's house. If you've just got, I'll say, a truckload or less of debris, maybe it makes sense to bring it to a central location. And so, when the storms happen, it's always, where do we do that at? Does that work? Hometown Heroes work great. Maybe that's something we can try next time. The other thing we hear is, hey, how can we communicate better as to what we're doing today, what we're going to do tomorrow, particularly as it relates to debris pickup. And so we tried some things. I think they worked better. They were imperfect at best, but notifying people where we're going to be the next few days. And I think we can refine that process. And then where have we been? And then the holes, we do big debris, and then we do the fences that blew down, and none of that can be commingled, and it's just hard to explain. And so continue to work on how we communicate with the residents about what we're doing, when we're doing it. And then the last thing is that make sure we pull the trigger early enough so we don't lose the first week or so as everybody gets organized. The trucks come from all over America to help us with that effort. I think the film said it was 117,000 or 112,000 cubic yards of debris. It's a bunch. And then the bag debris that American Waste picked up was like, hundreds of truckloads that they would work all day, they stuff, pick up every trash, and then they come back at night, pick up all the bags of the debris that the citizens brought out to Hometown Heroes. So lots of things we can continue to do, continue to improve on. We look forward to being able to do that. The other thing is every storm is different. We don't know what it's going to bring and just have to adjust our plan as we go on.
So Mayor Long, Council in 2024 approved an ordinance regulating battery energy storage systems, also known as BESS, to ensure the safe installation of this emerging technology. So can you elaborate on this ordinance and why you and the City Council directed staff to kind of research and create an ordinance addressing these sites?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most surprising things that I think happened this last year. So when these battery energy storage things started coming up, it wasn't just one, they kind of hit all at once. So it's 3, 4, 5 of them all kind of came pouring in at once. We didn't have an ordinance to address how these need to be built, where they can be built, any kind of standards behind it. So first things first, we asked staff to go look into it. Staff came back and said, yeah, it appears nobody has one, like they're across the state. So they don't have one at the Texas Municipal League that you can go, like a sample one you can go grab. And that's pretty surprising because usually those organizations have, or some other city would have come up with it already. So then we had to really start from the beginning, and that was hiring experts to advise us on this, and then walked us through the entire program. We built a pretty good ordinance that then has been used as a model in other places. And then, like anything else, I think we got it pretty good right now, but we're going to learn things, and the technology is going to change. And then that is going to have to evolve with it. There's going to need to be further restrictions that maybe we haven't thought of today. I do think that they're an important part of kind of just general grid resilience, but we don't want to overdo it as well. So we don't need them on every corner. They need to be in a certain place. They need to have these studies done, and we need to have kind of a stringent set of rules that we're kind of unwilling to change. And so I think we've done that so far. We've approved 2 of them. One of them kind of in a rural part of town, another one, kind of closer to here. So it'll be interesting how it goes from there and what kind of impact it has to the grid in the long term.
So City Manager John Baumgartner mentioned it already that it's been a year, actually this month, February 19th, since we took over the operations of the ballpark at League City, formerly known as Big League Dreams. Can you talk about why City Council directed staff to do that, and also how are things going so far in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think I said maybe this time last year that Big League Dreams have been an unmitigated disaster, and I call a little heat from the guy who ran it, but it was, and now it's not. So it has been kind of a thorn in our side the entire decade I've been on City Council. It had never performed properly. It had never really returned any kind of investment to the city. They were extracting a lot of profit out of it, not reinvesting into it. So you can see the public facility just kind of falling down on top of its own. Since that time, when kind of the second iteration of the operator didn't pay the rent, we had city staff go in there and take it over. And I believe you said they took it over on Tuesday.
February 19th. So
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday. And Ryan and his team had it open by Friday for tournaments. And that was an immense amount of work that went into that. And, I've got kids that play baseball, so I've spent far too many hours and bought far too many overpriced hot dogs there. So it's...
but it's revenue.
It is revenue.
Okay.
So that's a positive. But we've got it back to operating the black. So we operated the first year, didn't lose money. We're investing money back into it. We're on track to actually show some kind of return on investment and make it work. And it's actually operating in a way that's bringing people into the city, and you don't think you're going to get tetanus by walking down the aisle. So in general, I think it's been resounding success, and I really am shocked at the level of work and quality that went in by Ryan and his team and the entire staff of the city.
All right, well, we're going to recognize Ryan Smith. He's in the back. Ryan, stand up, because we want people to know by name who he's referring to. And Ryan has done a tremendous effort, he and his team, because it wasn't done alone, but he and his team has really turned that facility right on. John, as we saw in the video, League City won the ETC Leading the Way Award for outstanding delivery of customer service. Now, that means we are ranked in the top 10% of all governments in the U.S. That's quite a feat. Now, one of your favorite things to say is delivering world-class customer service. That's our goal. So why is this so important that you think we got this award?
So I think, as we look at the award, the ETC, they survey a large number of cities across the country. As you said, it's the top 10%. So I look at it as a report card. How are we doing as a staff? How are we being responsive to the needs and the desires of the community? And so they reach out and they take survey information from the community. And so it helps tell the story of how we're delivering services effectively, efficiently, meeting the goals and expectations of the community. It also shows where we could use improvement. And so we use that as a tool as we look at building a budget for the next year as to, what can we do better? Where should we do better? Our public safety services always come in ranked very, very high. Our traffic always, starts on the low side. We've continued to improve those ratings over the years. I mean, it's the second time we have been recognized as being one of the 10% cities as far as public services go. And so again, it's a great tool. It's a great thing that we can brag about. I think it helps us with our economic development. It's a good place to come to do business. And, I think it's, speaks for itself. And so that's the way we use that. We're proud of our accomplishments there and proud of being recognized by the community for the services that we provide to the community.
Following up with another question, we also saw in the video that in 2024, we invested $50 billion in capital improvement projects. Or CIP projects. Can you explain to the audience here today what is a CIP project and what is the program, and then maybe elaborate on some of those projects that we worked on in 2024?
So again, the capital improvement program consists of a number of different projects, that have a value over $5,000, but frankly, generally it's tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. It's really hard infrastructure for the community. Roads, drainage, water, wastewater, parks and recreation. And so we have a very diverse program. It's probably, the 5-year plan is probably approaching $500 million.
That's billion, right?
Billion with a B, 500 million, $500 million. And so, it's very diversified. And so you see it with the road projects, the intersection projects. And so, unfortunately, some of them take a little bit longer, so sometimes I don't like to talk about them. Highway 3 and 96 just drives me crazy, but that's a bottleneck improvement that will improve that arterial roadway. We have several more of those that are planned. FM 518 Main Street and Highway 3 has a project we just completed land acquisition on. Walker Street and 96 has a bottleneck improvement where we'll add turn lanes. That'll probably start construction this year. A number of different park projects that we're working on. We're putting parking in by the dog park at Hempstead Heroes. We're working on trail park projects. Lobet Park has a previous plan for it. Bay Colony Park is supposed to be coming forward with projects. And so again, it's pretty diverse. And I think just as importantly as our $50 million worth of projects, whether they're water, wastewater, drainage, or whatever, we continue to collaborate with TxDOT and talk about how do we improve 646. That should go under construction in 2025. We continue to shepherd the Grand Parkway project through. Well, that's still another couple of years before it starts construction. Land acquisition has already started. We talk about the landing bridge. This is the 12th year I've been here, the 12th year I talk about it. I'd like to say it's under construction, not conventionally, but they've relocated the conflicting utilities, the pipelines. There's one center point transmission tower that's left. We've acquired all the land, so hopefully in the next year or so that will be under construction too. And so again, it affects all pieces of the community. It's a whole range of different projects and priorities, again, from parks and recreation to infrastructure. So
Mayor Long, 2024 was really a year of planning, developing strategic plans, updating other plans, creating new plans like the West Side Master Plan. So let's talk about some of them, and let's start off with the West Side Master Plan. What is it, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, so the West Side Master Plan lays out what we're going to do to develop the southwest side of town. And so if you think about it, it's the last kind of untouched piece of land in League City, right? And I think even though I grew up here, I wouldn't even have thought that southwest side of League City was in League City, right? It goes all the way down to 517 out near Alvin. It's pretty long way up there. However, we have the chance to get it right, to learn from some of the stuff that maybe isn't set up perfect in the east side of town. Or what can we do to make sure that it's built in a sustainable way? And when I say sustainable, I don't mean in like solar panels and that wind farm kind of way. It's not like a green initiative, but sustainable in the sense that it's going to be kind of long-term value is going to be held in those subdivisions. Because I really think that's what people move to League City for. They move for the good schools, the general atmosphere of recreation that's available here, and then high-quality subdivisions. And so if you want a good example of like what some of the unsustainable neighborhoods, if you look in Clear Lake, right? So Clear Lake City, when I grew up, it was pretty fancy. Clear Lake City was where a lot of the fancier subdivisions were. But because they built them in a variety of different ways, and they did things like put the oak trees between the sidewalk and the road. Looks great when they're coming up, but then it cracks up the sidewalks, cracks up the road. City of Houston doesn't reinvest in those roads. Now the roads are all humped up and the whole thing just starts kind of spiraling down on itself. So creating the way that you build those subdivisions in a sustainable manner so the trees will grow up and be mature, but it won't ruin everything that's going on. The way that we set up all the drainage, so we amenitize the drainage, so we don't look up and the whole west side of the city is shallow mosquito ponds, right? Instead, they're amenitized and they're walking trails and different things like this. So it's taking the time to plan it out before the growth hits us. And then at the same time, we know that the Grand Parkway is coming through. That's another opportunity for us to create some kind of unique commercial areas on the Grand Parkway. And so taking the time to plan it out before the growth hits us so that we can be prepared to react.
We also developed a development services strategic plan to streamline and improve processes with the development services department here in League City and to really elevate trust with developers. What is that plan and why is it so important, do you think?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but essentially development needs to pay its own way. So we need the developers to anytime they put something in the ground, any of the negative externalities that are created from that, they need to bear the cost of that. However, we don't need to be the most difficult city in the county to work with, or maybe in the greater Houston area, right? And we consistently heard from developers, we're slow, we're a little bit unresponsive, it's kind of confusing how to even get through that. And that's real time and money and effort for the developers as well. So I think what we want to do is we want to be easy, clear, transparent, and quick to work with. However, we want to make sure that they're paying their own way and that they are bearing any cost that comes from the development they're putting on the ground. And so we might be requiring more of them, but we can at least make it simple, clear, and fast, and easy to understand and easy to work with.
So John, in 2024, we also updated several existing plans, including the Parks and Open Spaces Master Plan and Master Mobility Plan. Why is it so important that we continually update these master plans?
So when I look at the planning process, we address issues related to growth, but some of the most important things we get out of update the master plans is our chance to interact with the citizens and the community to get their ideas to make sure that what we think is important to the citizens. And so that's our, again, chance to interact, get their ideas, and then most importantly, that prepares us for the growth we know is coming, and then what's the right timing for the roads, as the mayor stated, make sure that we improve upon what we get done before. We talk about traffic, we kind of talk about the east side and five corners, and I think we look at the west side, particularly the southwest corner, and a little bit more gridded street so that we can go north, south, and east, west easier than we can do in some of the existing roadways. The second is make sure that we're ready financially for what's coming forward. And so the mayor talks about development paying its way. and that's all positive. Part of development paying its way is what's its impact on existing infrastructure, whether that's the wastewater treatment plant or the water plant or arterial roadways, the bridge over Clear Creek at Landing Boulevard. And so there's a way to assess some fee for that. And so, before a house can even get a building permit, there's about $25,000 in fees now, water, wastewater, parks, building permit fees, street fees that they all pay, that then go in to help us pay support for the infrastructure that we're building. And so the planning process helps us assess how that impact takes place. And again, we do it responsibly and reflects the values of the community.
So you talked a little bit about Logan Park. We developed a master plan for Logan Park. Can you talk about what's in the future for that park? Pickleball courts, because I know there's a lot of folks that are interested in pickleball.
Yeah, I'm like 66, and I'm trying to think how this pickleball thing works, to explore it, but no, seriously, as it relates to Logan Park, it's really a two-phase plan. And so we got that park from the county a couple of years ago. It took a little bit of time to study kind of what's important for that park and what the residents would like to see there. And so the first phase will be kind of refurbishment of what we have, which includes the baseball field, converting the tennis courts to pickleball courts, rehabbing the restroom and that kind of thing. And then the second phase, we'll add 2 lighted soccer fields out there, we'll increase parking out there, we'll increase detention. So those who use it frequently know that the drainage out there is pretty marginal, and so the detention will help provide a place for that water to go, and then add walking trails to it. And so both of those projects are still under design, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 will come first, and then probably sometime next year we'll start construction of phase 2.
And construction's going to start on phase 1 hopefully this year. That's the plan.
That's the plan. I don't see Chin shaking his head one way or the other yet.
That's our director.
Chin says yes.
Okay, great. Mayor Long, safety is a huge priority for residents and businesses here in our community, and we saw that in the surveys that we do with ETC. What are we doing to maintain our city safety, particularly as we continue to grow?
Yeah, so safety is the top priority. There really is nothing besides that, right? I mean, if people don't feel safe or, we can't get the medical services they need, then really nothing else matters besides that. So we've reinvested quite a bit in it, hired new officers, purchased new equipment. We have a brand new fire chief as well.
Jeff Allen, you want to stand?
And I think he's going to be key. So we are a volunteer fire department, right? So League City's volunteer fire department actually predates the city's. I think it's the second largest city in the state of Texas with a volunteer fire department. But we still have ISO 1, which is the top rating for fire protection. And so that's a really neat thing. And frankly, it's a huge budget impact to us that we save between $10 and $15 million a year having that volunteer fire department. So having a chief that supports the volunteers, they can continue developing that program is huge. And then on the police side, we are continue to hire officers, continue to have incredibly high standards, and then make sure that they have the tools and from the electronic tools like the flock camera systems to a variety of other things, making sure they have the tools to do their job as well. And then the EMS side, over the last several years, we continued to purchase ambulances, grow that side, because as we grow, both geographically and with population, we're going to need more services on that as well.
As we saw in the video, our population is now near 124,000, which is, we've had so much growth over the last 10, 20 years. And we're expected to double the population in the next 30 years. Yeah, also unbelievable. As we develop and continue to grow, how important is it that we expand our commercial development League citywide, and why is that important?
I would kind of tell you, it might be overrated. So I think that you hear a lot of times, particularly, I guess, when people are campaigning, that they'll say, yeah, we need to increase the commercial development. Yeah, I mean, of course we do. However, I guess the devil's in the details. I do not believe in massive taxpayer subsidies to bring in more commercial development. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't really pay for itself. I think we're better served, and particularly in the way the kind of new economy, right? So I think we're better served to develop high-quality subdivisions that retain their value and continue to serve the people that want to come here. I don't think it's worth big giveaways to build office towers because I don't think that's the way people are moving. I sure wouldn't be putting my money in to build big office towers. I don't think it's worth giving away money to retail to bring in because increasingly more of that shopping is moving online. And so with the way that sales tax works now, the sales tax follows the home that's delivered to. So this is a change over the last 5 years. Used to see those big warehouses everywhere, and the sale was made out of the warehouse. So if your city had the big warehouse, then you got the sales tax. That's just not the way it works anymore. The state changed it. It's where it's developed. It's where it's delivered to. So when you're shopping on Amazon, that money is going to League City for the sales tax. So I think our money is better spent maintaining high quality subdivisions, creating a place that people want to live in, people feel safe, the infrastructure that comes with it, and then targeting specific projects in specific areas. Like the Grand Parkway, when that comes in, that's going to provide some ability to put things in and to do some different things. But I'm not a huge believer in just taxpayer-funded giveaways to bring in or win a project. I think our neighbor to the north loves doing that. I just don't see the numbers panning out as successful.
The League City Council approved a top property tax reduction. You talked a little bit about this in 2024 for the 10th consecutive year. How have we been able to remain fiscally strong?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. First of all, the value of League City continues to increase, and that's on purpose, right? We have good planning. The people want to live here. People want to continue to move here. The growth is still there. But then on top of it, we've gone through the budget and we've taken out things the taxpayers were supporting through the general fund, a variety of things maybe we shouldn't have been. And that kind of goes directly back to the fees that we've talked about. So we've undergone a variety of fee studies to put fees back on the people that are creating the work and creating the expense for the city. And so we've mentioned it several times, but development. The taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing a developer in the sense that we need to go out there and our engineers checking the roads, or our engineers, checking or our inspectors doing the inspections. Whatever the cost of that is, needs to be passed on to the project. In a lot of instances, the taxpayers were subsidizing that growth. So the current citizens were subsidizing new growth. That doesn't make much sense. So we changed all that, so that if you want to do something in League City, we'd love to have you, but you're going to pay your own way on all of that. And we've taken that savings and reduced it off of the property tax rates. And so it's about finding those opportunities to put the cost of the person creating the cost. You need to pay that cost yourself. And so we've gone through a variety of different studies to do that, been pretty successful. And then at the same time, just the growth in sales tax. So as more people are shopping online, less people are going to the mall in Friendswood, Webster, or whatever. Those sales are being shifted back to League City. And then our sales tax is growing from there. And so we're winning because we're winning by the digitalization of shopping benefits League City. The fact that less people are commuting into Houston and more people are staying here to work from home, they're going to restaurants in League City during the day. And so that's creating sales tax that maybe we didn't have before because people go north into Houston to go to work. So the new economy and the way things shape up, more work from home, more digital purchasing, all of that benefits League City, and then we can use that increased revenue to decrease the property tax.
John, in 2024, we launched a major internal initiative called the Elevate Academy for our employees. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the Elevate Academy, is a structure similar to Six Sigma. It's designed to empower employees to look at our organization and perhaps make recommendations to changes in how we deliver service, eliminate redundancies, and just kind of develop ways to have some cost savings. I think it's been pretty successful. I think the video talked about 270 employees have participated out of the 700 in the organization. and then have brought forward a number of different initiatives to help us save money. Part of our challenge going forward is how to best quantify that and make sure those are true savings. But a couple of them one, for example, is in our utility billing. Everybody who has those water meters in their front yards got a little antenna on top. If it's not set exactly right, the lawnmower runs over it. And so, Lindsay Sinibaldi, who's our utility billing manager, found a product that we can put in that has an inset in the lid. And so when we have that situation come up for existing meters, we change that lid out and then don't have to repeat that process, thus saving the city money. And some of those charges get charged back to the citizen if they get run over. And so it saves that money. And then going forward with new meters, we use the new lid and we don't have that problem anywhere. The other thing that has come out of that, the mayor hasn't heard this story yet, but we're looking at, is there a way to improve our streetlights, to take it over and run it as a city enterprise and save money, lower the fees that we pay TNP for lights and provide a better, more efficient service and save money at the same time. And that's pretty significant savings, we believe, that'll be coming forward for council to consider here in the near future. So those are a couple of initiatives that have come out of that. But it just kind of makes all of us on staff reflect back on what we're doing. It doesn't make sense, and it provides a chance for some employees that don't perhaps get that same level of attention to participate in the improvement process. So we're proud of that.
The 2025 Texas legislative session is underway. What are some of our priorities as you as the mayor and also for council?
Yeah, so I think the biggest priority, and it has been for some time, is to continue to kind of push forward for the Grand Parkway, the completion of Grand Parkway. So, we're on segment B, and it's the part that basically goes from the Keeper Bridge out to Sugar Land. And it was kind of one of the most expensive parts of it because of the bridge over, the Keeper Bridge, and then the bridge over the Brazos on the other side of it. And so and it's also kind of the most populated part of the Grand Parkway. But as we're kind of building out the west side, this is a huge part of that. It provides access, it provides, opportunity for commercial growth. So we need to continue to kind of push, advocate for this project at the legislature.
What goals do you and city council have for the next 2 years? And what is your vision for the city of Honk?
Yeah, so I think the major goals are, continue to look for efficiencies, decrease the tax rate below the no new revenue rate, build the west side in a sustainable manner, and then look for opportunities to build those kind of big regional parks out on the west side, and continue to figure out ways that we can make it, deliver services in more efficient ways and continue to have whittle down the time.
So I've got a lot of questions here, so we're wrapping up, and I promise we're going to get to your questions. What can residents look forward to in 2025? John, what's on the horizon?
So I think, as staff, we will continue to look at how we provide services. We'll continue to strive to provide a world-class customer service with a focus on public safety, transportation, mobility, drainage, and meet the needs of the community through Parks and Recreation services. So there are, certainly a significant amount of projects. How we can continue to deliver those, or perhaps deliver those more efficiently, is on the horizon. We'll continue to work on that.
Same question as we wrap up. What's on the horizon in 2025? What do residents have to look forward to?
Well, I think some fun stuff. It does seem to be a pickleball heavy budget. Between, we're building some over on the east side, and then also at Bay Colony Park, there's pickleball course going in over there. There's a variety, I think it's 5-6 softball fields, a couple baseball fields, they repurposed some of the drainage area to be used for Frisbee golf, which I think is a pretty ingenious way of using land that otherwise couldn't be used for something else. And, kind of a 5K track around that as well. So that will be a really neat additional park over there on the west side as well. So that's more fun than the stuff that John was talking about.
So let's get to our questions now. We're going to try to get through as many of these as we can, because this is a big stack. First one, the status of the Amazon facility. Who wants to tackle that?
Yes. So, this thus far, Amazon's not going to move into the facility, so it sits there generally as an empty warehouse. I think they've leased it to Tesla to store cars out there. They're doing some cleanup in it. Maybe they have a tenant. They haven't shared that with me. Scott, have you heard anything regarding that building? Shakes his head no. So we don't know anything different other than it's still an empty building. It's an economic opportunity for someone wanting to come to League City.
So also, this is a compliment. We really appreciate the lack of street vendors in our city.
Yeah.
But then the next question is, what is our overall stance on the legal alien issues that are going on in our country right now?
I mean, the stance is we're going to follow the federal law, right? So we're not a sanctuary city. If you are arrested and legal alien, we're going to do whatever we can to help the government, right? So that's a federal issue. They're going to divorce immigration. We don't do that, but we're certainly not going to stand in the way of the federal government either.
Is there a heritage trail future, or is it no longer a consideration for League Park to Heritage Park?
So we brought forward a couple options for council to consider, and so we just still continue to, I'll say, struggle with what route does that take and how do we manage that. I think there are some elements of Heritage Trail that will come forward as we look at the Kilgore track, the kayak launch that's coming in at the end of Kansas, and then certainly connecting that up to Heritage Park, and then how to maybe better mark the service streets on how to get from League Park down Railroad Street across Coriel, but not have a separate trail necessarily, but better markings.
With the city growing, is there any plan to start city transportation service?
I don't believe so at this time. We really haven't heard much from people desiring that service, and then just sheer expense of it is quite significant.
Is there a goal for when the city will have a full-time paid fire department?
I mean, I would say hopefully never. So I would say we receive a very high level of service. It's difficult to maintain a volunteer fire department, though. You have to maintain the morale. You have to constantly train and do these different classes. Actually, in this very room, a couple days ago, they brought on a new class. I want to say it was, 10, 12 new cadets. And this was the second class of this fiscal year. So they're still growing. I think there's a lot of value that's provided by that. Pasadena still runs volunteer. We may have to go more hybrid in the future, but as long as the service and the response time and the quality is high, the savings and the camaraderie that it brings and the kind of tradition to the city is very much worth continuing the volunteer fire department.
What is the status of the brand Parkway?
So the state is actively working on the Grand Parkway. There are currently active land acquisition, I think is, maybe the mayor said, or maybe I said it, as we look at the southwest side, the developers have protected a quarter of the Grand Parkway, and so that makes land acquisition go easier. Their goal is to start construction in 2027 and be able to drive on the road by 2031.
Any chance you could lengthen the left turn lane at 5 corners to East Layton and add a right turn lane? I think some of these I'm just going to put in a pile, right, as future projects.
Yeah, can you repeat?
Any chance you could lengthen the left turn lane at 5 corners to East Layton and add a right turn lane?
We'll look into it.
Well, look, there you go. I'm going to put this in a separate pile.
I apologize. I'm trying to picture it. So yeah, it's certainly something that we can look at.
Another request, as part of the League City beautification efforts, could you pressure wash the barriers on the overpass between Highway 3 and Hotel Heroes Park?
Yes, we can.
And when will Highway 3 and the League City Park intersection complete?
No.
These are some tough questions, yes. Brought it.
It will be complete this year, hopefully before summer.
With the projected development, what can we expect to see and where will roads be coming in or moving towards as we grow? Any areas specifically?
Yes, so as we look at the southwest side of the city, we certainly see a lot of pressure on, hey, how do we connect to 517? So we have a active project on Hobbs Road to connect that last 2,500 feet from the southern terminus Hobbs Road out to 517. That's under design. I would be hopeful that would be under construction by the end of the year. We have some land acquisition that we have to do. We have some pipeline crossings we need to get permitted. The development community is very, very active, building little segments of landing, Maple Leaf. You know, if you're creative, you can wind your way down through Westland Ranch from Maple Leaf all the way down to 517. It should be open shortly. And then they're all actively working on the east-west corridors. There's a piece in the middle owned by the Lloyds that's under active conversation with the Heinz Group to begin construction, but there's not a real timeline as when to connect the east-west roads there in the middle. But I would expect that all to be coming. And one of the things we will prioritize as that comes forward is making those east-west connections and making the connections down to 517 Bay Area Boulevard's kind of the next big one. And, you know, as they bring the Lloyd track forward, one of the things we ask is, hey, you've got to have at least 2-lane connection down to 517. That's been a little bit of a stumbling block for the people developing it. That's initial expense they have to put in. And so we're actively looking at all that to make sure that we don't put all the pressure on the roads that are going to that likely City Park Way.
This might be a question for you, Mayor Long. Are there still plans for another sportsplex on the west side? I believe we're talking about Bay Colony.
Yeah, so I think there's like two pieces of that, right? So Bay Colony Park, that's moving ahead this year. You call that sportsplex, something like that. But then we have another additional 100 acres that's further west of that. At this time, it's so far west that it'd be kind of inconvenient to develop it, and there should be nobody out there. But as we will continue to look for places to build another kind of large scale park. And frankly, at this point, it might have to be smaller parks on the east side because there's no giant pieces of land to build one. But we'll continue to kind of look for opportunities to do that.
I know we can see. Any plans for a municipal golf course?
No, that's a good way to lose a bunch of money. I like golf, but I'm not very good at it, and we can
What are the future plans for the ballpark at League City? Since it's been a year now since we took it over, what are the future plans?
So I think as we look at the ballpark, as we've talked about Ryan back there in the corner and what he's done, he's replaced the turf on the fields. He's diversified some of the programming to have some non-sports related programming out there. Currently, they're developing a marketing sponsorship plan to help increase the revenue going into that facility and get to keep it self-sustaining. Unlike many recreational facilities, they don't fully pay their way. Ryan's goal is to fully pay his way in to improve the programming and that kind of thing. He's got a pretty ambitious revitalization CIP. He's looking at new lighting out there, and then some shade structures and nettings over the stands. And so he and they continue to work on increasing programming.
Mayor Long, can you talk about the recent decision regarding food trucks?
Yeah, so originally up till about 5 years ago, you couldn't have food trucks in League City, period. And then we loosened the regulations on food trucks, kind of recognizing that they've become higher quality, and there's certainly a market to have them at community events. And then I guess maybe our ordinance wasn't clear enough. They started permanently parking in parking lots and setting up as permanent businesses in gas station parking lots. That was never the intent. The intent was that if we're having music in the park, the food trucks can show up and serve there. If you're having a deal at your HOA, the food trucks can show up there. It's not to become de facto restaurants in gas station parking lots. And so the new law or the new ordinance that we wrote just clarifies that you cannot just take up permanent residence in a parking lot somewhere and compete against one restaurant.
How are the plantings in the middle of the divided roads paid for? Did we get a grant for this?
So the new landscaping on in the medians of the arterials was a grant from TxDOT, and the project's been managed by TxDOT. Obviously, with some participation by us, we were required to provide the water service connections to run the irrigation system, but fundamentally that was a TxDOT project.
First off, thank you for all that you do for the city. I love when we get compliments. I want to make sure we say those. I would love to have a better understanding of what the city can do to help homeowners struggling with insane rate increases of insurance on their homes. I fear this trend upward is making League City tougher for young families to buy into.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and unfortunately, it's probably going to get a little bit worse with the kind of recent rash of disasters, particularly in North Carolina and in California. The biggest thing that we can do, and that I mentioned it earlier, that ISO 1 rating. So that's kind of the insurance standard of the fire protection, and 1 being the best. That helps lower commercial insurance rates, and it kind of spills over into homeowner insurance rates as well. So by maintaining kind of the proper infrastructure and the proper kind of public safety sides of that does help bring down some of the property insurance rates as well. And then the other side of it, it's also about how we take care of flooding and drainage and building standards in League City. So by maintaining the high level of that, we can impact your flood insurance rates and your property insurance rates as well. So we stay on top of that. And then frankly, we should probably look into maybe some kind of public service stuff that we could gather either from the state or from other resources to get that out there. But home insurance rates in Texas is one of the 5 worst states for home insurance. So it is increasingly a problem. We should probably look for other ways to get information out of citizens as well.
Bay Ridge residents want to profusely thank League City for the 2 drainage projects that have been completed. However, our concern is when will we have the internet access at the pump station operational during heavy rainstorms and hurricanes?
I'm going to take a guess. You sent this one in.
I think I know too. John, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I don't know that answer offhand, so I'll have to get back with the person that asked the question named Dave.
Dave Bowman, I know who asked.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Does the city favor economic development of more businesses versus home development? And what are the advantages of more businesses in the city in terms of tax revenue?
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit earlier. I think we want economic development, or we want certain projects. We want people to come in and build their projects. I think what we don't want to do is hand out, $65 million, $50 million for this project, or just totally subsidize the project for them. I think that's what we're not interested in. I don't speak for everybody else. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in paying for these large projects. I'm very interested in figuring out ways to bring them here and creating an environment in which they're going to be, they're going to prosper, they're going to reach their customers, and it's going to work well for them, and it's an easy place to develop within the tough standards that we have. So I'm really interested in doing that, not interested in handling a bunch of tax revenues.
How often are the walking trails inspected for tilts in the concrete and for breaks in the concrete? Walking trails around the city walking trails, are they inspected often for breaks in the concrete or tilts in the concrete?
So if we're talking about just purely the trails, I'd like to, I don't know the specific answer to that, but obviously they're maintained, we mow them, we send people out there regularly. But what I'd like to suggest is if you see deficiencies, particularly cracks, not so much, but differential settlement where there's trip hazards and stuff, if you could take a few minutes and just tell us generally the location, send me an email that we will get that scheduled. We have a pretty robust program for both repairs, trails, and sidewalks. It's funded to the tune of about $1 million a year. And so if there's something that you see that perhaps is a hazard, we would welcome that input from you.
Any plans to alleviate traffic on Main Street at Marina Bay? Go. Yeah.
So the 5 corners.
Might be a little bit 5 corners, but yeah.
First.
There's not, so a couple of, only thing I have right now to offer on that is we've continued to try to work with TxDOT to perhaps look at what we can do with FM 270, but there's not an active project or study at this time to make any changes at Five Corners.
So this one I might be able to answer. Is it possible to invite the city mascot to help come and promote small businesses? Unless you're referring to Mayor Long as the city mascot, I'm not sure, but we don't have a city mascot. But we can ask, what plans does the city leadership have to help support small businesses?
The same.
Yeah, so I think we've done a couple different things on it. I think we are working more closely with the Chamber of Commerce. Kind of hats off to the Chamber of Commerce leadership. They went through a real tough time a couple of years ago, and the new leadership has stepped in and cleaned up a lot of that. So we're back kind of working with the Chamber of Commerce. And then also in some of our purchasing requirements as well. So kind of giving a slight points bump to local businesses and to keep that money in League City, shop local type stuff. So I think there's always things we could do to improve upon that. We'd love to hear the idea. And I'm willing to be the mascot if you want something.
I can get you a costume. We'll pick one out. Are there any plans in the works for sidewalks along Highway 96 between Highway 3 and I-45? We have some ideas.
I need to check on that. That would be a textile project. I don't believe there's an active project at this time. Good idea, Chris.
I will put it in the idea pile. And I have to say, a lot of these aren't questions, these are ideas. So I'm going to put them in the idea pile and hand over to John and as well as we look at future capital improvement projects and future things that our residents would like to consider.
Like on sidewalks, the state highways, TxDOT has been very active. They've systematically gone through the community. They've added sidewalks on Highway 3. They're adding them on 518. They've added some of them on League City Parkway. And so I think it's just a function of time as we get to those different locations.
Why is 518 to Friendswood taking forever to finish, as is it taking, it's a long, stressful trip? I think 518 is completed to Friendswood.
I think that I suspect the question is sidewalk question.
Oh, sidewalk, maybe it is a sidewalk question. Yeah.
I'm not as intertwined as I sit here right now. That is a TxDOT initiative, and obviously it's kind of sequential construction as they do the drainage out to the side and cover it up, and then after the sidewalks and turn the roadways. And so like Sarah said, we'll get back and we'll do some sort of information piece on what we expect from TxDOT related to that project.
So we'll wrap up on this question. What are your favorite partners do you like to work the most in the city, state, local, national, and why is it Galveston County?
I think I know who set this one in as well. They just have one of the best commissioners. Commissioner Louise is fantastic. Well, no, in all seriousness, the county has been a great partner for us. Obviously, with Logan Park, some stuff we're working on, some new bond initiatives, and then also kind of helping create some of these regional partnerships. So, and they really kind of spearhead a lot of that. So, if you look at drainage, right, we can do a lot of the drainage in the local areas. Like we can go do Bear Ridge, but we can't impact Dickinson Bight. And so that's really where the county can take the lead on some of those regional issues that require several cities working together. And so they've been really kind of good at that for us.